As improvisers, we have all been in the exact same position. You're playing through chord changes, everything is going well, and then bam, out of nowhere, you hit a really tough set of changes and you have to figure out how to work your way through it. Today, I'm going to show you a really simple concept that you definitely want in your improvisation toolbox that will help you work your way through just about any set of chord changes. This is something that is used by pro saxophone players all of the time, so this is something you definitely want to check out. There is a free PDF download for this video, so make sure you click the link below in the video description so that you can follow along with the free PDF download. So what is the name of this magical musical concept that will help us work through all different kinds of difficult chord changes? The name of it is a melodic cell. You've probably heard of a melodic cell before. You can use them to develop solos, but they are also fantastic for getting comfortable playing through chord progressions, especially chord progressions that are really difficult. So if you don't know what a melodic cell is just a short pattern. Just a short pattern, that's all it is. A melodic cell is generally 3 to 8 notes long. So it's basically a short pattern. And with these 3 to 8 notes, you can use them a couple different ways. The first way is to develop a solo line that you're playing. You can take this melodic cell and work it all over the place in your solo. The way we're going to talk about today is playing over chord changes. So we're going to use that melodic cell or short pattern and use it over all of the chord changes that we're going to talk about today, so you can see how easy it is to get comfortable navigating your way through difficult chord changes. This tutorial is geared a little bit more towards intermediate players because you have to understand what scale degrees are and be pretty familiar with them in order to use a melodic cell. If you're not an intermediate improviser yet, that's okay. You're totally going to understand what I'm talking about, and you'll even be able to incorporate it in your practice sessions. But in order to really use this thing to work your way through difficult chord changes, you're going to have to understand what scale degrees are and be able to switch between them with different chords fairly easily. Now, when I'm talking about scale degrees, all I mean is thinking about your scales in numbers. In other words, what number note each scale degree comes in the scale, as opposed to the note names. So in your G scale, G would be 1, A would be 2, B would be 3, C would be 4, D would be 5, so on and so forth. Because we're going to be switching the keys of this melodic cell, you want to think about scale degrees instead of note names, because it's way easier to transpose scale degrees as opposed to note letter names. The first melodic cell that we're going to talk about today is the most common and by far the most famous in the saxophone world, and that is the melodic cell that John Coltrane played all over Giant Steps. He plays it all over a bunch of his songs, but he played it all over Giant Steps. So this is what the melodic cell sounds like. The melodic cell or short pattern that John Coltrane is using is 1, 2, 3, 5. So if we do this in the key of G, we would think about the G scale. So your first note in the G scale would be G, your second would be A, your third would be B, and your fifth would be D. So the melodic cell is G, A, B, D. I'm sure that you've heard that before. You've probably heard saxophone players use that to warm up. You've definitely heard it in solos. It is a melodic cell that all saxophone players have used at some point. Okay, now that you know what a melodic cell is, the next thing we need is a difficult set of chord changes. So for these examples, I am going to use a turnaround, a very, very common turnaround, and this is something that trips people up all the time in their improv journey. So this is going to be a great example for you to understand how to use a melodic cell. So if you don't know what a turnaround is, that is usually the last 2 or last 4 measures of either a song or a section in a song. And there are oftentimes more chord changes. They're cycling through chords to turn around the chord progression and take you back to the beginning. So a turnaround can take you from one section to the next, or even more common, from the end of the progression back to the top. And one of the most common turnarounds in the jazz language is the 3-6-2-5-1 turnaround. 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Now, of course, when I'm talking about those numbers, I'm talking about the chords in a scale. So the three chord would be based off of the 3rd degree of the scale. The 6 would be based off of the 6th degree of the scale. The 2 would be based off the 2nd degree of the scale, and the 5 would be based off of the 5th degree of the scale. So we are going to do these examples in the key of G. So your 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 turnaround would be B minor 7, E7, A minor 7, D7, and G major 7. So this is what it sounds like if I just play quarter notes and I do a chord outline. If you have listened to jazz music, that should sound very, very, very familiar. Now, let's talk about the qualities of each of these chords, because when we're talking about a melodic cell, we are going to plug that cell into the quality of the chord. So let's look at this last chord first. That is the 1 chord, and that is the G major 7. So when we do the G major 7, we're just going to play 1, 2, 3, 5 in the key of G. So that'd be G, A, B, D. So that's pretty simple, right? Now let's go back to the beginning of the progression and talk about the B minor 7. So when we do 1, 2, 3, 5 in the key of B minor, we would play B, C sharp, D natural, because that is your 3. You have a flat 3, and F sharp. So your melodic cell is going to match the scale degrees of the chord. So for your B minor 7, it would be B, C sharp, D, and F sharp. Then when we hit E7, we would play an E because that is the 1, an F sharp because that is the 2, a G sharp because that is the major 3rd in E7, and a B because that is the 5th, and it would sound like this. Now I do want to point out that this E7 is a secondary dominant. So usually in the key of G, the 6th would be minor, but this one is a dominant chord, and it's acting as a dominant 7th chord for the next chord, which is the A minor 7. So it is a secondary dominant. It's a little bit more theory that I want to get into today, but if you'd like me to do a tutorial on secondary dominants, leave me a comment below that says, what is a secondary dominant? In this case, the whole reason for the secondary dominant is so that you have the G sharp, which is the leading tone, going into the A. It's the G sharp going into the A. You don't need to understand secondary dominants to do these melodic cells, but that E7 is a secondary dominant. Then we hit the 2 chord, which is the A minor 7. So your 1, 2, 3, 5 melodic cell for this chord would be A, B, C, E. Then we have a D7. Your melodic cell would be D, E, F sharp, A. So again, your 1, 2, 3, 5. Then we hit the G major 7, and this is our target, so we're just going to play a long note at the end. Now you could continue to play your melodic cell over this, but I like to use that as the target, as the landing note, so that you can hear how all of these melodic cells are winding through. Take a listen to what it sounds like when I play the melodic cell of 1, 2, 3, 5 through this 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 turnaround. As you can hear, that is a really great way to work through the chords. You can hear the chords changing. I'm given a lot of chord information when I'm playing that cell. It's really smooth. It's just a really easy way to work your way through a difficult set of changes. In this case, the 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 turnaround. So the good news is, once you understand how to form a melodic cell, you can kind of come up with whatever you want. In this case, we're going to play 4/8 notes because we only have 2 beats for each chord, but you can come up with anything you want. It's really going to sound good if you focus in on some chord tones. That's going to really lock in the tonal center of each chord, but you can pretty much come up with anything you want. If you're ready to start your improv journey, or you would like a bunch of tips and tricks and a very straightforward pathway on how to get really good at improvising and working your way over chord changes and playing interesting solos, then I'd like to invite you to come check out the Scott Paddock Sax School. In the Sax School, one of the things I specialize in is teaching improvisation. from the very beginning all the way up through early advanced. So if you're frustrated and don't know what to do next, or you just feel like you're scattered all over the place and you want a really straightforward step-by-step pathway to help you get a lot better at improvising, come check me out at the Scott Paddock Sax School. I'll put a link in the video description below. So we just did 1, 2, 3, 5. This time I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to do 5, 3, 2, 1. So in the case of B minor 7, that would be F sharp, D, C sharp, B. From there, I'm going to go to the E7, and that would be B, G sharp, F sharp, E. So the 5, 3, 2, and 1 in the key of E7. Then for the A minor 7, I would play E, C, B, A. And the D7 would be A, F sharp, E, D. And then I land on the G. So if I put it all together, now here is the beauty of using melodic cells. You can also stack them, and that's going to make it sound a whole lot more interesting. So instead of just playing the same melodic cell 2 times in a row, you can go back and forth between 2 different melodic cells. So I could play the 1, 2, 3, 5, followed by the 5, 3, 2, 1. So if I put those back to back, you get a really interesting sounding line that has a lot of direction. So you go ascending, descending, ascending, descending. Take a listen to what it sounds like. So I'm ascending for the B minor 7, 1, 2, 3, 5. And descending for the E7, so 5, 3, 2, 1. And then I repeat that pattern, ascending, descending, target note. I am guessing that you have heard that pattern before because it is very common and it's something that tons of musicians have played before. Now, of course, you could also do the opposite. So instead of ascending and then descending, you could start descending and then go ascending. As you're learning about these melodic cells, do you have a tune in mind that you want to try this concept on? If so, leave the name of the tune down in the comments below. Here is another really common melodic cell that you definitely want to have in your repertoire. So it is 5, 4, 3, 5. 5, 4, 3, 5. So in the key of B minor, that would be F sharp, E, D, F sharp. Over the E7 chord, that would be B, A, G sharp, B. Over the A minor 7 chord, that would be E, D, C, E. And over the D7 chord, that would be A, G, F sharp, A. And this is what it sounds like when you play them back to back in the chord progression. That gives you a really nice sound and really smooth transitions as well. Now, of course, we could do another combination. So I'm going to do the 1, 2, 3, 5 with the 5, 4, 3, 5. So when I put those 2 back to back, again, it makes your improv lines sound really good, and it makes it a whole lot easier to transition between difficult chord changes. So this is what the 1, 2, 3, 5 melodic cell would sound like over the tune Giant Steps. Make sure you download the PDF for this tutorial. There are some melodic cells on the PDF that I didn't have time to get to in this video. Using this concept, it just makes it so much easier to work your way through difficult chord changes. Now, you wouldn't want to take an entire solo using melodic cells the whole way, but if you're trying to get comfortable working your way through the chord changes, it's a really great concept to practice. You can also use it some in your solo, but you wouldn't want to do an entire solo of melodic cells, but this is a fantastic way to get really comfortable transitioning between chords. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. If you'd like to dive deeper into my saxophone world, come check me out at the Scott Paddock Sax School.